I'm sure the NFL thought it cooked when they put the Packers and the Bears in Week 18. Not a lot on the line. We still have a Locked On Packers, Locked On Bears crossover Thursday 2025, baby. Let's do it.
You are Locked On NFL Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome inside another crossover Thursday, the last regular season crossover of the 2024 regular season, although it is, of course, now 2025. I'm Peter Bukowski from Locked On Packers, joined by my pal Lorin Cox from Locked On Bears. Lorin, as I mentioned at the top, we expected there was going to be a lot of fun to be had this week, talking about these matchups, the Bears potentially fighting for a playoff spot. Today's crossover Thursday presented by PrizePicks. Download the app and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly when you play $5. That has not materialized in this matchup. The Bears' wheels fell off the wagon a long time ago. So what are they trying to get out of this last game other than like the hell out of Dodge?
Yeah, that's mostly it. I mean, you're trying to get through it not injured. I mean, listen, it's the Bears-Packers rivalry will always carry more weight. I mean, especially I think for this team that hasn't won in this rivalry for a long time. Like they're not just going to come into this game and completely give up and roll over because it's a 10-game losing streak. So why bother? Why win this one? Like they'll be fired up for this game. Whether that means they'll actually play better is a different story. But I think like there's some personal pride and just some like trying to catch up in this rivalry so it doesn't feel quite so one-sided. But that's about it.
I feel like it's harder because we know the coaching staff is going to change. So it's one thing if like this was a first-year coaching staff, they're trying to put something together, build something, put something on tape for next year so these guys can feel good. Like probably none of these guys are going to be here next year, right? Like is Thomas Brown still coaching for something here, do you think, or is that past?
I think it's all like individual futures, right? Thomas Brown isn't coaching to be the next Bears head coach at this point, no, but he's coaching to show the next team that he can be their offensive coordinator and that he can, be an interim head coach. And each individual player, right? Guys that are upcoming free agents that are trying to show off either to the Bears or the rest of the NFL, like one more good game. And there's a lot of those like contract incentives that we don't really know the intimate details of, where you get to a certain number of yards or a certain number of tackles or something, you can get a bonus in there too. So I think we've seen over the last month, there are some Bears players that are still trying really, really hard. And there are some Bears players that are not trying very hard. And you'll be able to tell on field and on tape pretty quickly who's really dialed in and has their eye on Cancun.
Yeah. The thing is as an organization, Chicago is incentivized to make this job look as appealing as possible, right? Like I know that Week 18 is not going to make or break Ben Johnson's interest in the Chicago Bears, but there is like, if you go into the offseason on an 11-game losing streak, that's not a great place to be organizationally.
Yeah, but you could say on the other end of the spectrum, if they lose out, they're going to have an even higher draft pick that makes this job more appealing. I mean, they're sitting at 9th right now, and the top of the draft order is so tight that every single win and loss in here is going to move things pretty drastically here. So they could jump. I don't think they can necessarily finish in the top 5, but I guess it depends on if a bunch of things go in their way. But there's a big difference between picking 6th and picking 11th here. And that could be, not that the Bears would intentionally lose for that, but it can affect the appeal of this job opening for the next coach.
Yeah. And we don't know the future of Ryan Poles at this point. There have been some intimations that he's going to make the next decision on the head coach. We don't know if that's actually going to happen yet. Right. So let's talk about what may be appealing here with Kaleb Williams, because the last time these two teams played each other, Kaleb had a game that I think could have been kind of a legendary game for him if the field goal doesn't get blocked at the end, given the way that he played, especially in the second half of that game. The Packers not ready for a lot of the quick game stuff that they were able to do. What hasn't translated since then? Because the offense basically carried none of that momentum over, at least to start any other games. They do the thing where they come furiously back in the fourth quarter to try and make these contests. I know that the Packers this is the pot calling the kettle black right now after what happened against Minnesota, but what has not quite translated since that game where it looked like, hey, this is actually the best way to use Kaleb Williams?
Yeah, I think since then defenses have seen how effective being aggressive and blitzing this Bears offense has been in terms of their inability to consistently pick it up and consistently give Kaleb a bunch of different options to get rid of the ball more quickly. And so I think the Bears have struggled to adapt to that. And you've seen Kaleb then get a little bit more tentative and not as decisive. Like one of the things that stood out from the first Packers game was like, especially in that second half, he got to scrambling quickly. It's like, okay, the read's not there, the pressure's coming. Like, let's just get out of it and get past line of scrimmage. And he ripped off some really nice runs to stay ahead of the sticks and keep the offense moving there, even when the rest of the running game was just kind of okay. And, they were still trying to find some rhythm on offense. But since that game, he's even been tentative to like leave the pocket quickly enough. Like some of the extra sacks he's been taking is like, it's just like, go, you gotta either throw it or move. And he's like a little bit late to do either one. And he hasn't been able to kind of settle in and just kind of rip it and play fast and loose. I think that there's just so many things he's like trying to do everything the right way that he ends up doing nothing quite the correct time and speed there. And he just kind of has to let loose a little bit and say, screw it. Don't be so worried about, oh, what if I throw an interception or what if I do X, Y, or Z? Like just play loose. You're a playmaker.
I asked you this question last time we did this. What is your concern level with Kaleb Williams right now?
Pretty low, only because like it feels like as the years gone on, it's become more and more apparent how much coaching is holding this team back. Like you can look across the roster at players who are underachieving based on what we've seen them do in Chicago and elsewhere, like DJ Moore, Keenan Allen, Cole Kmet, DeAndre Swift, Montez Sweat, Kevin Byard. Like there's Tremaine Edmonds, like guys that like we're pretty sure like we've seen them consistently perform at a high level, and like all those guys across the board are underperforming. Like to me, like they're the type of coaching that they're getting is not putting these players in the best position to be successful. And like the main concern is like all the sacks and the hits he's taking just from a durability standpoint. But I think we're kind of past the point of like, is he building, sort of the wrong bad habits? Like, I don't think he's quite at that point right now. I mean, there's mistakes he's making for sure, but it's not like, oh my gosh, is he broken beyond repair? It's the next coach is going to have a lot of work to do either way. So he'll be fine. Either the next coach will be right for him or be wrong for him. And you're screwed. You're screwed if the next coach is wrong for him either way. And you're in a great spot if the next coach is right for him. So what happens the rest of this year doesn't change that much.
Okay. I mean, I think that's fair. You do worry though, that some of the like regression of the let's take off or let's get the ball out quickly. I think that has to be in the back of your mind, at least, to say, hey, look, like this was not what he looked like at USC, although he did hold the ball at times and there were some pocket awareness things at times, but like it didn't look like this as regularly as it has. I worry, I wouldn't even say I worry that they have kind of coached the playmaker out of him. Like we haven't seen a lot of we see like once or twice. I mean, he had the touchdown that got called back right last week. The ridiculous throw across his body, but it just seems like Kaleb Williams, the playmaker, it's like he's afraid to make a mistake, and that's like not the quarterback you have.
Yeah, I think that's an accurate read on what we're seeing. Like they very much like coached him, take care of the ball, don't make mistakes, like don't
defensive head coach
harm's way. And I guess it's sort of a debate then on like how reversible you think that is. And I tend to feel like Kaleb is a player who's generally like pretty headstrong and in conviction about himself, in where like he can kind of like you bring in a new coach who tells him to do it the other way, like he'll be fine. He'll be able to get back to that. Like that feels more like ingrained in who he is. And they've been trying to hold that down. And once you stop actually like holding it down and just let go, I think that can easily bounce back to the type of player that he's been for so long, just before this 1 year of being told to do it differently.
Okay. The flip side of this team is to start the year, this defense looked like it was going to be the defense that ended last season when they were terrific. All the metrics said they were a top 10, top 5 defense. Right now they sit 25th in DVOA. The wheels have fallen all the way off. The Tyreek Stevenson situation has gotten nasty. Look, walk me through what has gone on with the defense that just does not look like they are irrecognizable from the team we saw in the first month and a half of the year.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of like Matt Eberflus had some redeeming qualities as a defensive coordinator, right? I think they did lose something. I think they haven't been able to adjust as well defensively since they lost Eberflus. I don't think Eric Washington has been calling it as, like not that Matt Eberflus was the most creative play caller in the world, but he's more than what we've seen Eric Washington do in terms of like fronts and mixing up coverages. It's been a lot more bland from a play calling standpoint. And then you add in they've had a lot of injuries on the interior of the defensive line, so they're just getting gashed in the running game with backups in there. They cannot hold the line of scrimmage whatsoever. And then you've got guys, I think there's more guys on defense than on offense that are phoning it in a little bit. I think there's been some questionable effort at the linebacker position, some questionable effort at the safety and cornerback spot. Like there's players that are not playing up to the level that you come to expect of them just from an effort standpoint, let alone the quality of play.
It can be hard, and we know that this is true in locker rooms where one side was expected to be really good, where one side is getting all the attention, and the other side is going, "Hey, what the hell?" And so this can happen. They need a culture reset. They need a new coach. We know that it's not going to happen in the next 3 days. So let's talk about the Packers coming up next on a Locked On Packers, Locked On Bears crossover Thursday. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at Gametime. I love going to live events, whether it's sports, music, theater, comedy. One of my favorite memories or some of my favorite memories are going to concerts with my wife before she was my wife. Since she was my wife, growing up, going to concerts, the energy and excitement, it's unforgettable. And also makes me think of summer, which right now I'm very cold and I would like to think of summer. Recently, I was looking through tickets because I wanted to go, and Gametime Picks makes it easy to find what I'm looking for. The thing that I hate, capital H hate, about dealing with ticket purchasing is finding, scrolling, digging. I don't want to do that. The super deal at Gametime makes it easy for me. Plus, the app's all-in pricing shows the total cost upfront with no surprise fees at checkout. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKED, LOCKED, on NFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. What time is it? Gametime. We're back here, Locked On Packers, Locked On Bears, across over Thursday. Peter Bukowski with Locked On Packers, Lorin Cox, Locked On Bears. Lorin, we can flip the script here a little bit. Talk a little Packers as you're preparing for this game. What do you have your eye on here? What are you trying to figure out with this Green Bay team? Because frankly, I've got a lot of stuff I'm still trying to figure out with this team in January.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where it's going. It's like, well, which Packers team are we going to get? Because sometimes, Jordan Love is dialed in and this offense is unstoppable. And then the defense has been playing at a super high level. And then sometimes against Minnesota, you have a game where, Love's a little bit off and the pass rush kind of disappears. And I guess I'm sort of left wondering, like, why? Like, what changes there? Because it seems like the really good playoff teams on their schedule have been the games when they end up coming up short. And maybe the teams that are a little bit less quality of opponent are the games where the Packers really look locked in.
I can't explain it, but here's one thing I'll say that will make your audience happy. I am becoming increasingly concerned about Matt LaFleur's coaching in a big game.
Really?
And I have been someone who has been very out front with my support of Matt LaFleur. I thought he should have been coach of the year in 2019. I thought he had a really good case last year to be coach of the year. I think he's one of the top 5 coaches in the game. I really do. But slow starts in big games has been a problem going back to Aaron Rodgers. And I was willing to chalk it up to Aaron Rodgers. I was. This is not going to be a surprise to my listeners. And now we're seeing it this year. Now we didn't see it so much last year. Like, they started fast against the Lions on Thanksgiving. They started fast against the Chiefs. They beat the crap out of the Cowboys. They started fast in that game, no question about it. So there have been some games where they haven't had that issue. But 49ers, it's sloppy mistakes early. It's some non-aggressive play calls early. And then this year, even against the Eagles, where they scored points in the first half, they kicked field goals inside the 5 twice or inside the 10 twice in situations where I thought they absolutely could have been aggressive and gone for it. And like, by the numbers, they were go situations, right? And they don't even start playing the Lions until the second half, the second time that they played. They didn't even start playing the Lions until the fourth quarter, the first time they played, at least offensively. It's an offensive problem, not a defensive problem. 13 points from a defense with no Evan Williams, no Quay Walker, no Jair Alexander. And then they lose Zane Anderson in the first quarter. Like, that's good work against the Minnesota Vikings. 3 points from your offense is not good enough. And like, again, I have a lot of faith in Matt LaFleur, but I need to see it. I need to see it not be the reason that they lose. Like lose a game 31-34 or 27-24, not because you couldn't score in the first half, because you couldn't get a stop late or, whatever. Like there's plenty of reasons why you might lose a game. And I'm like, okay, well, you lost. It happens. Starting slow can't be the reason anymore. And I'm flagging it because I'm starting to look at this going, that's the common denominator to me. Because you go back 2019, they scored 0 points in the NFC Championship game. We remember that game for that run defense getting dog walked. They couldn't score in the first half. They're down 21-10 to the Patriots or the Patriots to Tom Brady and the Bucks in the NFC Championship game at home. And then last year they scored 6 points in the first half against Tampa Bay. My goodness, Lorin. I'm on so much cough medicine right now. Against the 49ers in the playoff game, they could have easily had 17 points given all the good drives that they had against that 49ers team. So I'm just saying that is something that I have my eye on right now. I want to see it from Matt LaFleur. I believe in him, but I want to see it.
So we're betting first half unders on both of these teams.
Philly. If it's 2-7 in Philly, bet the first half under for sure.
But where does Jordan Love play into this, right? Because it feels to me like, some of those drives where you settle for field goals, like, yeah, there's a coaching decision there to decide to not go for it in that moment. But there's also an offense that doesn't get into the end zone before fourth down there. And I think with Love, it feels to me like from especially all the Packers fans I know, like that there's this good Jordan Love, that there's this inconsistency with Love. And yet it feels to me like at the same time, like, is it actually him playing better or worse? Or is it kind of just situationally and luck kind of moments where it's like, yeah, he misses a certain number of throws every game, but in some games those misses are more impactful than others, but it's not like he's missing a lot more sometimes than other times. It's more about when and where the misses happen, or is there more of a Jekyll and Hyde thing there that I'm not giving him credit for?
No. I think what is interesting to me is I don't think Love's level of play has changed that much in his NFL career.
Yeah.
At least in the last 2 years. Like, I don't think the difference between Jordan Love in the first half of last year and Jordan Love in the second half was that different. What changed was they stopped having dumb pre-snap penalties. They stopped running the wrong routes. They stopped dropping the ball. And that allowed Jordan Love to play on time and just run the offense. You watch him in the second half, like watch the Saints game last year where he's running around. He's having to make all kinds of second reaction plays using his feet. And it's a really fun version of Jordan Love. They come back from down 17 in the second half to win that game. By the way, they need a missed field goal on the last drive from the Saints to get that win. But in the second half, he's just from the pocket, back foot, ball out. Well, you can only do that if you're getting protected and guys are winning. And this is what happened for the first time, Lorin, that I've ever heard Jordan Love after the Vikings game. He said, look, he took responsibility for the way that he played. But he said, look, guys got to win. And I don't know if you've watched the tape from that game yet, but regularly he gets to his back foot and there is nowhere to go with the ball. They were not ready for the man coverage. That's a Matt LaFleur problem. And it's one of those things where, like, when he can get to his back foot and get the ball out, he's going to get it to where it needs to go. It's when he tries to make perfect plays. Sometimes he lets great be the enemy of the good. Like there was a play that I put out on Twitter where it's a play action concept and he gets stuck on this deep out on the outside. It's a 20-yard out from Romeo Doubs. Like the hardest throw that exists for a quarterback. It's a 5-step 20-yard out. Okay, cool. He tries to make it. You just got to eat that. Like it's not there. And like if he makes a perfect throw, it's there. He's got Josh Jacobs outlet on the other side with one guy 15 yards away. Just dump it off. Just don't let great be the enemy of the good. And I think that Matt LaFleur can coach a little tight and Jordan Love can get a little greedy at times. I'd like to see him go into create mode. Dan Orlovsky mentioned this the other day on NFL Live. He wants to do the thing. He wants to be the quarterback Matt LaFleur wants him to be. But you watch him at Utah State. So much post-pocket creation, getting out of the pocket, making throws on the run. He's got special arm talent to do that stuff. I'd like to see him say, okay, no one's open. Rather than trying to force this throw into double coverage, like he threw one to Bo Melton into double coverage last week, extend the play. Do the Aaron Rodgers thing And you can either take off or then throw the ball away, but don't put it in harm's way. So there is some inconsistency in his game. He's an NFL player. He's a human being. Everybody's inconsistent, but I think for him, it's more about what's happening around him, because his level of play, like, he plays pretty well most of the time. I think he was still a top 5 graded player from that Vikings game. It's just that, like, sometimes the circumstances, like, he's got Jaden Reed, 4th down, slant, drop. Like, those are the things. Romeo Dobbs, he rips an out to Romeo Dobbs, drop. Like, they're just those kinds of things that are happening. And if they can execute better, they can beat anybody. But you know what you call a team that can't execute? Not very good.
Well, and I'm sure it kind of depends too, like if there's 0% financing on all new Camrys, Corollas, and RAV4s as well. But no, I want to touch briefly on this Packers defense. Then, are
Bears fans familiar with Toyotathon Jordan Love?
I feel like that's like an internet meme thing.
I hope so. I hope everyone. If you don't, just Google it. You'll find it.
Yes. But real quickly on this Packers defense before we move on. Like, I know you've been a really big fan of the work Jeff Hafley has done. I think I look lately and it's like, man, kind of some rough moments against the Vikings and Lions, but like every other game this year, or every other game in the last like handful of stretches here, like since their bye week, I mean, they're holding teams to 1 or 2 scores and making life easy on their offense. Like, is that just part of it's like, hey, the Vikings and Lions offenses are just really good and it's hard for any defensive coordinator to stop? Or is there something that those offenses figured out that caused the Packers to struggle a little bit more?
Are you ready for me to cook your noodle?
Uh-oh.
Packers were 6th in DVOA heading into the Vikings game. They're 5th in DVOA coming out of the Vikings game.
Wow.
Like, they got better. Now, I would have to check and see what the actual numbers were in terms of like the percentages. But by weighted DVOA, the Packers are 3rd.
They gave up almost 400 yards to Sam Darnold.
But that's a good offense. And so like that's part of this. I think what people, not you, people forget sometime about defense, because I know you know that, is defense is very situational. It is very much about who you're playing. And so when you play bad teams, you should kick their ass. That's the way defense works. And if you play well against a good offense, that's really, really good. Chances are you're not going to. Like, that's just kind of the way the NFL works now. Mm-hmm. And so I think for the Packers, beating the crap out of the bad teams is a huge step up, Lorin, because last year they went into New York and lost a game to Tommy freaking DeVito because they couldn't get one stop at the end. They got lit up. Baker Mayfield, perfect passer rating. That's the game that got Joe Barry fired. The best game of Bryce Young's career happened against the Packers defense last year. So like, those are the games that you have to eliminate to be a championship caliber defense. It's not holding the Lions to 14. Although, by the way, they held the Lions to 17 offensive points the first time that they played. No Jameson Williams in that game, and it did rain in that game. So Sam Darnold, rain game. But it like they actually played that Lions team as tough as you can play them in that first game. So I like what Jeff Hafley has done. Part of it is just like, Jair Alexander's not going to play the rest of the year. We got bad news on that yesterday. And maybe we should have mentioned it earlier, but he's going to have surgery and be out. I put out a little clip on social so people can go find that if they missed it. But they've been doing a lot to protect their corners, playing a lot more cover 2, a lot like cover 3 buzz, where it kind of looks like a too high shell, and it's usually Xavier McKinney dropping down, trying to make plays in the middle of the field. I would not be surprised if Xavier McKinney gets Kaleb Williams this week on a similar kind of thing, where the Packers show too high and he tries to rip in some sort of, in-breaker, and all of a sudden it's, Xavier McKinney driving on it, something like that. But this defense has exceeded expectations, I think, even from the most wild Jeff Hafley fans. And I was like intrigued by what he could be. I did not have top 5 defense on my bingo card. And one of the big reasons, before we get to break, Edgerrin Cooper, the rookie linebacker, I mean, you're not going to see better run defense tape from a linebacker this year than what we saw last week from the Minnesota Vikings game. Edgerrin Cooper was he had 4 tackles for loss, sideline to sideline player. There are very few linebackers who tilt the field in the NFL. The Bears employed one for a very long time. And I'm not going to compare Edgerrin Cooper to Brian Urlacher, but the Packers have not had a player this dynamic at that position like since I've been alive, Lorin, and I'm older than you. So it's been a long, long time since they've had a guy like this. And it's very exciting to see. We'll get to some keys to victory here coming up on a Locked On Packers, Locked On Bears crossover Thursday. Today's episode brought to you by our friends at FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get out on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook, because right now new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. $5 bet you can turn into $250. FanDuel has so many ways for you to pick up that dub. I love betting sides. Lorin mentioned bet the under in the first half. Maybe we should start betting first half unders for the Packers. Can you? I'll have to check if I can parlay a first half under with just the Packers money line just to get the odds better, because they're double-digit favorites in this game. That might be something that is worth investigating if you are up for something like that. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your chance at $250 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. All right, Lorin, Locked On Packers, Locked On Bears, a crossover Thursday. Okay, Packers are heavy favorites in this one. Let me start here, actually. Do Bears fans want to win this football game?
They do. I think maybe it's not 100% universal there. There's always a section of fan base that says draft pick. But like specifically,
this is so bunched. Like I can't remember a top 10 this bunched.
Yeah, it's every win and loss here is going to be pretty monumental. But because it's the Green Bay Packers, right? You're going to be hard pressed to find a very large contingency of Bears fans that say, "Yeah, I'm cool with losing, just waving the white flag and losing to the Packers." Like if this were the Seahawks or some non-divisional game that doesn't really matter, I think you'd have a lot stronger of a group saying, sit Kaleb Williams, don't worry about this game, just let him go. But it's the Packers. The Bears fans want to get up for this game, and I think I'm expecting a little bit better effort from Bears players than maybe the last couple of weeks.
That's interesting. Yeah, I think that's the question, right? Like the push-pull of, do they want to beat the Packers more than they want to have a good draft pick? But there's 9 teams that are 3-13 or 4-12. I just put this together. It just amused me, honestly, to see the lost 10. Sorry to cover our faces, but like that just amused me a little bit. For those of you watching on YouTube, but the standings are really bunched, and that's the crazy part here. So okay, now we'll get to the question I was going to ask. Build me a path to beating this Packers team.
I'll say on the front end, like again, they've done this 10 times in a row. Is this going to be I don't have a lot of faith that this would be the one that, all of a sudden now they figure out how to not only beat the Packers, but like win any game. But what it would look like is certainly not a slow start. It's sticking to the running game early and often and getting Kaleb Williams into that early rhythm. It seems like every single week we see the same script play out. It's like first drive, 3 and out, second drive, maybe you get a first down and then you punt. And it's not until late second quarter they remember, hey, if we like go up tempo and get some quick passes built in for Kaleb, they can put together a drive right before the half and get some points on the board. And then, wow, look at that. It's funny how that works every single time. So like if they could just start that earlier in the game and just say, you know what, like let's just come out up tempo, no huddle, like get something going here to kind of build that positive momentum at the beginning of the game, that can sustain a little bit longer throughout. And then, defensively, you're going to need to add a turnover or 2 to give the offense some extra stops. The Bears are going to need to become ultra aggressive to stop the run, because otherwise you're just going to see the Packers gash them with Josh Jacobs over and over again, run some play action for Jordan Love. And like, that's how Ben Johnson smoked him a couple weeks ago in Detroit. It's super easy when you're not able to stop the run. And you've got a quarterback who can hit, precise passes over the middle behind the second level there. So the Bears need to find some personal pride and be a little bit more physical and get a little luck their way, and then get Kaleb Williams going, and you can start to piece together something that looks more like how the first Bears-Packers game was, minus the very big ending.
Yeah, I will use the first game as a teaching tool here. Don't turn the ball over. Like if Jordan Love doesn't sail that throw to Tucker Kraft, like, are we talking about the ending? Probably not, right? Like it feels like a very different game if that's not the outcome. So that's the key. Turnovers is the way for the Bears to stay in this game, because like you said, the Packers, Josh Jacobs is getting 25 touches in this game. And if he doesn't get 25, he's going to get 18. and is going to have 120. And so like Emmanuel Wilson will get some, Chris Brooks will get some. This is crazy. 8 Packers rushed the ball against the New Orleans Saints 2 weeks ago. 8. And I guess that's not even fair. Malik Willis, technically 3 kneel downs. So technically he gets rushes too, but like we're trying to gain yards, 8 different Packers. I would guess we see something like that where it's like, oh, Bo Melton gets a jet sweep. Jaden Reed gets a jet sweep. All 3 running backs get opportunities. Oh, Tucker Kraft on a QB sneak, which is the thing that they do. That seems like the deal to me. Like a lot of running. You mentioned the Lions playbook, run the ball, play action into it. The Packers 4th in EPA per dropback when they use play action. If anything, I'd like to see them do it more. Jordan Love is 16th in play action rate. That's crazy. This is Matt LaFleur, for crying out loud. Like this is if you're not going to do tricky stuff, do the simple stuff. Press the easy buttons. And if they do that, I mean, this is a 30-17 kind of game, and everyone goes in the offseason, the way that they should. The Packers are going to the playoffs, and the Bears are going to convince themselves by March that they're ready to do this once again.
I think the idea here is like, let the Bears beat themselves, right? Like they're not going to be able to beat you on their own. Like if you just take it easy, take care of the ball, don't push. Like I know we talked earlier about Matt LaFleur, maybe some conservative decision making sometimes in games. Like this is the game to do that. The big games are a different story, but this is the game to just take the field goal. Don't worry about the touchdown, turnover downs. Just take what they're giving you, and they'll give you enough to win the game. But it's, if the Packers kill themselves with the penalties and the turnovers and stuff and give the Bears these opportunities, like that's where you give them a sliver of hope and where Kaleb can
see. I kind of go the other way on that. Like I want to see Matt LaFleur be aggressive. Like this game doesn't really matter. So like, just go be aggressive. It's 4th and 6 in plus territory. Go for it. Just go for it. Let's see it. You got to play. Let's try something. I would love to see that, but we'll see if it happens. Lorin,
real quick, like,
yeah,
if the Packers lost to the Bears in this game on a big upset, is that pretty deflating for them going to the playoffs? Like, does that raise like,
yeah? I mean, I think this is what Matt LaFleur was asked about this yesterday. He said there's a lot to play for, good and bad. Right. So like there's a lot on the line. I think that's the way that he wants them feeling about this game. Like if you play bad, think about how bad that is going into the postseason. I think he wants them focused, locked in. Now their injury list yesterday was a freaking CVS receipt. Like it was huge. We'll see what it looks like by the time that you listen to this on Thursday, and then Friday, of course, is going to be the momentous one. But I wouldn't expect Christian Watson to play in this game. I wouldn't expect Evan Williams or Quay Walker to play in this game. Elton Jenkins was on the injury report yesterday. We'll see TBD about that one. I'm trying to think if there were any other important ones, but like I wouldn't expect a lot of the injured guys to push to get back there. We know Jair Alexander now is not going to be out there. But still, like your Jordan Love is going to be out there. Josh Jacobs is going to be out there. And maybe they'll have their eye on what's going on in like if Dallas is up 34-14, like maybe they'll take guys out in the second half. I don't see that happening. So it would be catastrophic. It'd be pretty bad. And I think Matt LaFleur is going to make that very clear this week. Like we can't lay an egg. Like you have to come out and beat the crap out of this Bears team. That is the responsibility that you have. And we'll see if they can do it. All right. We'll be back tomorrow to finish out a Locked On Packers and a Locked On Bears week. I'll be live after the game for the latest, and then we'll be in the playoffs. Hopefully many games. We'll see. Philadelphia is the most likely candidate right now. Lorin, thank you so much. We will have to get together in the offseason to not do a crossover, but we'll get a chance to do it again. And everyone stay locked on Packers and Locked On Bears.